Syntactic construction, types of syntactic construction. We will discuss syntactic starting with larger syntactic structures and breaking them down into smaller constituent. So we will start with sentences, which are larger unit, proceed to clauses, which are smaller than sentences, move on to phrases, and then phrases are smaller than clauses, and end up with words. So words then are smaller unit, and larger than words we have phrases, and larger than phrases we have clauses, and larger than clauses we have sentences. So we will start with sentences, and then we will come towards clauses, and after clauses we will have phrases, and then we will have words. So we will discuss these all number by number. A sentence begins as a mental construction job. Sentences are not randomly combined morpheme, but structure built on the basis of rules of combination. So it means that when we construct a sentence, so there are proper rules that how can we combine words to form a larger unit. For example, that one of the structure of English sentence is subject, verb, object. So we cannot place first object, then subject, and then verb. And if we place in this way, our sentence will be ungrammatical. So there are rules to combine these words to form a larger unit. So these units being combined are called constituent. So in traditional approach to grammar, a sentence is seen as having at least two main constituent. One is called subject and other is called predicate. So in traditional analysis of a syntax, or traditionally a syntax has two parts. One is called subject and one is called predicate. In these traditional approaches, the subject is the topic of a sentence and the predicate is a comment or assertion made about the topic. So there are two parts of a sentence traditionally. One is called subject, and subject is the topic of a sentence, and second is called predicate, and predicate is actually a comment or assertion made about the topic. Now, traditional sentence analysis. In the sentence below, if analyzed by traditional approach, the student is the subject of a sentence and look at a painting is the predicate. So here we have two parts of a sentence traditionally. One is student, which is the subject of this sentence or the topic of this sentence. And the second part, look at a painting. This is a predicate. And predicate actually that it comments or it makes assertion about the topic, the student. So traditionally we analyze a sentence in this way. Now, in most modern syntactic analysis, the predicate is seen as an element that assigns a property to another element or elements in a sentence or helps to relate those other elements to each other, thereby completing the meaning of a predicate. Using this rationale, the sentence above might be analyzed as looked. And then we have in parentheses the student at a painting. So looked is the predicate and the expression in the parenthesis, the student and at a painting complete the meaning of this predicate. So what is predicate here? We have looked, it is a predicate, and the student and at a painting. So these two are called arguments. So you can see that they say that complete the meaning of the predicate. The expression the student and at a painting are called arguments, and arguments are necessary to complete the meaning of predicate. So you see that predicate, it cannot give you meaning alone. It needs other elements. And what are other elements? They are in modern syntactic analysis, they are called arguments. And arguments can be the subject and argument can be object. Traditionally we call them like subject and object, but in modern syntactic analysis we call them arguments. So in order that a predicate should give meaning, so it can give meaning only when arguments are there. So without arguments, a predicate cannot give meaning. So look by itself is not a complete thought, nor the student look at the painting. So nothing can give complete thought or meaning. Like looked, it does not give meaning alone. Similarly, that the student, it doesn't give meaning alone. And similarly, look at a painting doesn't give meaning themselves. So the predicate in this case need two arguments to complete it: a subject argument and prepositional phrase. So what is prepositional phrase? That is at a painting. And prepositional phrase is also used as an argument. So depending on the type of verb, one or more argument might be needed, obligatory. So sometime we might need one argument and sometime we might need two arguments. So this is actually the modern syntactic analysis procedure, where we see a predicate, and a predicate, it can be seen as an element and assign a property to another element or elements in a sentence. So other elements are necessary in a sentence for this predicate to give a complete thought. In addition to argument, there are obligatory. A predicate may be completed by element called adjunct, which are optional. For instance, in the sentence, the art student look at a very beautiful painting, the element art, very, and beautiful are adjunct. So what are adjuncts? Adjunct may be like adverb, or adjunct may be like a phrase. And this adjunct, it gives only additional information. And if you remove them from a sentence, so the sentence will still give a complete thought. So adjuncts add information that is not essential to the meaning of a predicate. Like for example, the art student look at a very beautiful painting. Even if you remove art and you say the student looked at, and if you remove very beautiful and just leave here painting, you say that the student look at a painting, still it gives a complete thought and meaning. So it means that art, very, they are called adjunct, even if as well as beautiful. Even if they do not exist, still a sentence is complete one. Here we have types of sentences and clauses. So using a traditional approach, sentences can be classified on the basis of how many subject topics and how many predicates they contain and the types of clauses they possess. Now here we can see simple sentence. What is a simple sentence? When a sentence consists of only one subject and one predicate, it's called a simple sentence. An example of a simple sentence is the dog ran away. So what is a simple sentence? A simple sentence is the one which has one subject and one predicate. Here we can see one subject and one predicate. Such kind of sentence is called a simple sentence. Simple sentences can be combined to form compound sentences such as the dog and the cat ran away. Here we have two subjects, the dog and the cat. And here we have two predicate, ran away here and ran away here also. So in this case, two sentences are combined using coordinating conjunction and the compound sentences tell us that the dog ran away and the cat ran away. Here we have the dog, one subject, and the cat, other subject. Here we have ran away, one predicate, and here we have ran away, other predicate. So there we have compound sentence. So in a compound sentence, then we have two subjects and two predicates. In a simple sentence, we have one subject and we have one predicate. Now, redundant elements as eliminated in forming the compound sentences. Compound sentence can be formed without a coordinating conjunction, as in the following sentences. We studied all day for the test. Now it is time to rest. Even you can form compound sentence without having a coordinating conjunction. In this case, the semicolon takes the place of a conjunction. The two simple sentences in a compound sentence are said to be independent clauses. So you can even form a compound sentence with a semicolon, and you will not use here coordinating conjunction. Next, here we have complex sentence. A sentence that contains a simple sentence and one or more independent clauses is called complex sentence. The following are complex sentences. Let me make it zoom. Although it is tempting, I will not be going to Las Vegas. And these are the people who would be traveling with us. And if I come late, start without me. So it's a complex sentence because here we have independent clause and here we have also dependent clause. They say what? A sentence that contains a simple sentence and one or more dependent clauses. So although it is tempting is called dependent clause. And here we have dependent clause that who would be traveling with us. It's a dependent clause. And here we have if I come late. So if I come late, it cannot stand alone as a sentence. And who would be traveling with us? It cannot stand alone as a sentence. And although it is tempting, it cannot stand alone as a sentence. So when a clause cannot stand alone as a sentence, such kind of clauses are called dependent clause. Now, here we have another type of sentence that is called compound complex sentence. Sentences that have two or more independent clauses and at least one dependent clause are called compound complex sentences. For example, when the teacher assigned the reading for the exam, many students were stunned, but they argued to study. So when the teacher assigned the reading for the exam is a dependent clause because this cannot stand alone as a sentence. When the teacher assigned the reading for the exam, it cannot stand because the audience or you people might expect what happened next. When the teacher assigned the reading for the exam, what happened next? You are asking. So nothing is there. So that's why this clause is called dependent clause. It cannot stand alone. So it's a dependent clause. Many students were stunned. It is a independent clause, right? And then could stand alone is a simple sentence as therefore an independent clause of a larger sentence. The same is true of they agreed to study. So they agreed to study can stand alone is a simple sentence or it is independent clause. And here we have their students were stunned. Many students were stunned. The sentence can stand alone, right? It's a simple or independent clause. And the first one, it cannot stand. So what is a compound complex sentence? In a compound complex sentence, we have three clauses. One clause is dependent clause and two are independent clauses. Example here, when the teacher assigned the reading for the exam, it is dependent clause. Many students were stunned. This is one independent clause, but they agreed to study and it is another independent clause. So compound complex sentence is formed with one dependent and two independent clause. Next we have dependent clause. So what is dependent clause? A second type of clause used to construct sentence is the dependent clause. A dependent clause cannot stand alone as a simple sentence but must be attached to an independent clause. So A dependent clause cannot stand alone as a sentence and it needs an independent clause. So it means that independent clause doesn't need dependent clause, but dependent clause needs independent clause. So a dependent clause often begin with a relative pronoun or a subordinating conjunction. Some example of dependent clauses are the following. Although it is tempting, this clause cannot stand alone as a sentence. Who would be traveling with us? It's not a question, right? It's a relative clause. It cannot stand alone as a sentence. And if I come late, it cannot stand alone as a sentence, because although it is tempting, you might expect what happened after that. And who would be traveling with us, you might expect. So what happened after that? And if I come late, so what happened after that? So you are expecting that something else also happen after that. So it means that dependent clauses cannot stand alone as sentences and they need the help of independent clauses. Now, the term simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and compound complex sentence refer to the grammatical construction of a sentence. Sentences can also be classified on the basis of their meaning, purpose, function, or voice. The following are some of the most common sentence type classified in this way. Declarative sentence, sentences that make a statement, like we say that Christian just arrived. Christian just arrived. And interrogative sentences, like sentences that ask a question, has Andrew just arrived? Or imperative sentences, sentences or express a command or make requests, like Arun, come here, right? And exclamatory sentences are those sentences which show strong or sudden feeling, or if Jane were only alive, or were only here. Now here we have active or passive voice. Active is a relationship of the grammatical subject of a verb to the action they conveyed by the verb. In most English sentences, the grammatical subject precedes the verb. In active sentence, the grammatical subject of a verb carries out the active or purpose, as in the sentence, Mark hit the ball. In a passive version of this sentence, the subject is receiving the action of the verb. So in the above example, what was the direct object become the grammatical subject, and what was the grammatical subject is moved to the position of the subject. The result is the ball was hit by the mark. Note that the word by an auxiliary verb was are added in this passive construction. Although the word by often indicate a passive construction, it does not have to be present in the passive sentence. The sentence, the computer was purchased yesterday, is also passive. In this sentence, the subject, I, we, a person, name, etc. is missing altogether. So possible active version of the sentence would be I purchased the computer yesterday. In these two examples, the verb hit and purchase are in the passive voice. So that's all for this lecture. Thank you so much. We will discuss active voice and passive voice as a separate lecture in coming session.